Welcome to Hi Rasmus and Friends, Stories Behind the Science, hosted by Hi Rasmus, the leading clinical platform for ABA therapy. Each episode highlights inspiring stories from experts and individuals with unique perspectives. Join us as we explore valuable insights and foster empowerment within the autism community. Welcome back to Hi Rasmus and Friends, Stories Behind the Science. I'm your host, Amy, and today we're talking about what it really takes to build a thriving, values-driven ABA company. I'm joined by Cortney and Chris Keene, the powerhouse duo behind Keene Perspectives, an organization that's just been named one of Vermont's best places to work for the third year in a row. From a White House recognition to their commitment to staff well-being and a culture of care, this episode is full of wisdom for any ABA professional or business owner looking to make a lasting impact. So thanks so much for being here today. How's it going, both of you?
Great. A little chilly here in Vermont, but the sun's out finally.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
same. Thanks so much for having us, Amy.
yes, I'm so glad that I can have both of you. So, huge congratulations on being named one of Vermont's best places to work for the third year in a row. I will say, when we originally booked and prepped for this episode, I was already so impressed by everything you guys had accomplished. And then just this week, I saw that you outdid yourselves again with that third consecutive Best Places to Work award. Truly incredible. And quite perfect timing. I didn't know, I didn't know what time of year that all gets said, but I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. So I definitely want to dig into what makes your company culture so special. But before we get there, let's rewind a bit and kind of hear more about your background. And so, if one of you can just share, if one of you wants to share the story of how Keene Perspective came to be and what inspired you to start your ABA company.
Sure. So Keen Perspectives came to be around the end of 2016. We had this wild idea. I was working as a special education teacher and wide consultant, and Chris had been working in behavioral neuroscience and academia. And we just noticed a real need for supports and services for young children with autism in our upper valley of Vermont, New Hampshire. We're right on the border of Vermont and New Hampshire. And we really saw a need and thought, I think we can help. I think we can make a difference here. And Chris knows usually when I say things like, I've got this crazy idea, um, that it means we're probably going for something and we're gonna make it happen. Um, but I don't know, Chris, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, it's been a wild ride, and that's honestly a staple for our entire team. They understand when Courtney says, "Hey, I've got a crazy idea, something's coming," but it usually turns out pretty well. Um, we just passed our seventh anniversary as a clinic and as a business, and I think one of the other things just about our region and probably a lot of other small business ABA owners out there in the sort of non-urban, non-highly populated areas might realize there really wasn't ABA. There wasn't a foothold for ABA in our region. There was sort of a scattering of uh, companies across the state, but really trying to serve a rural state with a need that far outpaced what was readily available in terms of services, staffing, and really the skill set needed to support those learners effectively, schools as well as families. And that was something where we really just understood and were passionate about wanting to try to help fill that void and try to help more families, school teams, and especially learners contact supports that would really benefit them.
Okay. So I'm kind of curious about with the company culture and your original kind of vision, if this is just something that comes natural or if this was really part of it. So you've been recognized both for the business success and the company culture. When it first started, what did success look like for you? Kind of what was your vision and has it changed over time?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when we first started, it was way more modest goals. I would say that we were kind of focused on some core principles for ourselves in terms of Were the learners coming to services and really the families with them, and were they happy? Were they enjoying their time with us? Did they want to come back for more? For our staff members, it was really a similar filter. Do they enjoy the work? Are they learning? Are they motivated? Are they uh, reinforced by the growth of the learners? And that was kind of basic to start, but because we were training ABA, most of the people we started with, besides ourselves, didn't have much of a background in ABA. There was a little bit of experience, but we had to train it up from the ground up. And same with families. They didn't know what ABA could be. They didn't have experience with ABA services. And so we were really introducing it to most of the families and team members we had. So it was a pretty simple metric. Like, are people happy? Are we making progress with both our learners and our staff?
I love
Are
that.
they learning? Are they developing? Are they growing? And in terms of that vision changing over time, I think that's still the core piece of
Mm-hmm.
what we focused on and what we do. It's kind of a great metric, right? Like, do people want to stay here? Retention in this field is so important that you have to consider the staff and the learners. And if the learners are successful, the staff are motivated, they're reinforced, and it'll all keep going. And I think it's really evolved a little bit from that, in that we can now do that a little bit more measurably. We have been able to add some components on top of that and look at, okay, more metrics, more considerations, more evaluation of what happiness looks like, what success looks like, what is going to drive retention, because retention means we have great technicians and great behavior analysts that are continuing to provide services to our area, and really integrating more of a culture based focus around that as well. So it's certainly expanded, but it's still at the heart that same idea.
Absolutely. Well, my next question, I feel like you answered part of it because you definitely guys have the intentionality now on it. But what do you think sets your company culture apart from other companies and from other ABA organizations specifically?
I don't know necessarily if this sets us apart from other organizations, because I don't want to, I guess I don't necessarily know. Um, but for us, I think we put a lot of focus on our values, and we work really hard to lead with our values. We had a lot of time in 2020 to do some reflection, and that's really when we dug into identifying what our values were, and then using that to go through and work on our policies, our hiring practices, and really start looking for people that were values aligned. We were kind of doing that when we first opened, but we didn't really know what we were doing,
Mm-hmm.
or we didn't know what we didn't know. But now you've mentioned intentionality. It's very intentional as we're recruiting people to join our team. So it starts with recruitment. So I do think that that does set us apart. Um, we also really just try and make feedback normalized in our environment, and making it clear to our whole team that feedback doesn't just mean things that are constructive or that you need to
Mm-hmm.
change or do differently. We really want it to flow in all directions all the time. And everyone likes to be recognized. And there's no reason why we can't recognize each other frequently. And
Absolutely.
I think we have built a culture of that, and it happens every day in person. We have an internal kudos and values shout out chat that's very active. Um, Staff are shouting out kids for their progress all the time. There's just a lot of focus on recognition, and I don't want to say the small things people are doing, because they're not small, but a focus on what people are doing every day that make a difference and motivates everybody. The
Absolutely.
other thing we the other thing we do put a big focus on is this idea that the grass is greenest where you water it, and
Mhm.
we all actually contribute to that. So like Chris and I, as the leadership, we can put policies in place, and we can say all the things that we want to say, but what matters is what we do. And it's not just what we do as leaders, it's what all of us do to contribute to our culture. So if we want KP to be a place that we all really want to be, we need to all make it a place that we all really want to be. So that's been a big focus for us.
Awesome. Yeah. So if there's anyone listening that's outside of the ABA field, I mean, it's just so impressive because so many ABA companies struggle with staff retention and morale. And so then to be in this bigger category of not only of winning an award, of being one of the best places to work. So I was curious, what is it in a health or education category, or what does that recognition look like as far as best places to work for Vermont?
It's it's statewide and it's based on business size. So they're
Okay.
not categories of industry or anything. There's small, medium, and large businesses, and we're small, under 100 employees.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, so you win within each of your categories.
That's awesome. Very cool. So, how does your workplace culture reflect the core values of also the autism community and the families you serve? And I feel like Chris touched a little bit on this early on, but I want to go because I do think they kind of go hand in hand, and it's a wonderful cycle.
I can jump in quickly on this
Yeah.
one. So we it's important to us that everyone on our team get to the point where they feel like they belong on our team. We don't love we don't love thinking about wanting everyone to fit in.
Okay.
We actually want everyone to bring themselves and belong. And the way that people feel like they belong is that they're included.
Hmm.
So just like that grass is greenest where we water it, just empowering our team to
Hmm.
embrace everybody and who they are. Um, and one of our favorite things that has come up a couple times in stay interviews that we do, or just in casual conversation with our team, people will say things like, I can come to work unapologetically myself. And hearing that's also motivating for us because that's exactly what we want. It doesn't mean we don't want people to continue building on their professional skill set and learning how to grow into being a young professional. But in order to do that, we want them to bring themselves.
Awesome. So I know that you guys said that it definitely starts with the recruiting and hiring. What do you look for in a great ABA provider, and how do you cultivate their growth within the company after they've been hired?
Well, one of the first things that we really jump on with that is understanding values, and we share ours, and really work to understand their values right from the beginning, right? The recruiting process, even before you're sitting down for interviews and things, there's a lot of information that kind of comes forward in terms of what people's motivations are, why they do what they do, what their passions are, where they want to go. And really, we try to be honest with people on that right out of the gate. That's a lesson we learned very quickly, which is we were always going to be more successful and retain people who had a similar vision, who had a similar focus and purpose in what they wanted to do. We're in this to help families, learners, communities, schools around us. And that's not always going to align with every person, every candidate that makes it through
Hmm.
the process or seeks you out. And that's okay, right? We really want to level with people early that this is what we're looking for. We try to share the information about what makes you successful at Keene Perspectives. And that does mean integrating feedback. It means sharing feedback and communicating with us and working towards growth and sharing celebrations together. We don't want to do this in isolation. We're a team focused, culture focused organization with a very clearly defined, mission and values that correspond to that. So that's where we start. This may be a tiny bit arrogant, but we've actually believed that we could train in a lot of the technical skills and alignment with how we want to practice ABA.
Hmm.
Certainly, brand philosophy, things like that vary a little bit company to company. The
Hmm.
core tenets of ABA are still the same for the most part. And so we're ready to train. We're ready to put in time for the right people who want to grow, who have a growth focused mindset, uh, and who want to work with a team. Those are the people that we're looking for. And so we communicate that right up front. Even in our interview format, I share with people they're evaluating us the same way we're looking for those factors in them to understand if it's a good match between us and them. So we don't expect everyone to walk through and know exactly how we want to operate, and we're ready to support and help them grow to get there as long as we can communicate clearly, honestly, and have that common ground of purpose.
Love that. So we all know that burnout is like a major issue in the ABA field. How do you actively prevent burnout for yourselves as well as for your team?
Well, I think since we haven't quite figured it out for ourselves, I will talk about our team. Um, so talking about it, burnout, it's this word it's been in our ears for years. I've heard it
Mm-hmm.
more and more really since COVID. And there's so much research now about burnout and understanding your own needs and the strategies that you can develop for yourself. So we do burnout training for everyone on our team, and we really want to empower people to be able to identify those areas in themselves where they might need to employ some strategies to help themselves through that. I think the first step is identifying where you might be starting to feel that way. Also, doing some education and teaching that it's not a destination. It's something that it ebbs and flows, and it comes and goes. So just helping folks get to know themselves and identify where they might need those things. Maybe if you start to feel really burnt out in March because it's really dark in Vermont for months. And that might be a time to start planning some time off. Maybe you need a little pick me up then, instead of getting to March and feeling like you need to call out for 5 days because you just can't.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to teach proactivity and really taking care of yourself and putting those antecedent interventions in place for yourself as a grown up, not just thinking about how we might do that for our kids.
Absolutely.
There's a couple of areas that we've really kind of specifically highlighted there as well. So we embed time each month now. We've shifted this year specifically to a couple of what we call all hands meetings, where it's time to connect as an entire team. And one of those is kudos and cohorts. So we have we're just large enough now to where we've started to break into cohorts within our client and our staff base that help each of them kind of work with a set base of learners under a caseload. And that's going to, that approach is certainly going to vary depending on the ABA company, but the opportunity for connection there, for
Mm-hmm.
teaming at scale that sort of makes the biggest difference is one piece. And then our other meetings are actually focused on connection and collaboration. And sometimes that's training content, it's ABA. We always have more things that we can do to level up our skill set technically, bring that science into our team wherever we can. But sometimes, and in January, we took some time to plan and to help our staff consider how they would use their time off. And so they planned really both
Oh.
goals and time off utilization across the year. Um, Time off is really important to manage with respect to burnout. You need enough of it.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, especially as a small business, we rely on our people to be there to provide services. And so there's a balance between how much we can provide. We always work really hard and reflect every single year on our time off policies and how we can improve them, enhance them, create more flexibility. The answer is not always just add more time. Unfortunately, I wish we could all do that,
Mm-hmm.
but small business owners will certainly recognize that's difficult. So helping them, educating them, and then taking time, right? Focused effort on how we do those things together is really important. And that was our staff really appreciated that. They loved the opportunity for the most part. And we'll see over the course of the year if that's something that pays off in terms of helping people balance that time in a way that's sustainable for themselves and for the team. But it's certainly something we're working on together.
Awesome. So, as business owners and leaders, how do you personally manage work-life balance while running a successful company? I know, Courtney, you joked with self-care, you shifted it to the team, but you all have been going for a while. You haven't hit a wall yet. So, tell me a little bit about what you guys do for yourselves.
I see Chris grinning. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, yeah. So I mean, I think like Courtney said, this our time as small business owners was certainly disrupted by the COVID wave. So starting a business in
Hmm.
2018 and then having COVID hit, everybody expects kind of maybe 3, 5 years of kind of grind when you start out. So COVID sort of hit the reset button on us, but as we continue to move forward, we keep kind of navigating and I want to say we're kind of clawing back the pieces of for ourselves personally in our lives that uh, building trust in our team, building capacity in our team, We recognize we have an amazing team of really well-trained technicians and behavior analysts, and we're all trying to grow together. And sustaining that over time is really important. I think we're working on practicing what we preach. As small business owners, we always put all of our team members and all of our families first, and I think there's a lot of people in the field of ABA as a whole that are doing that, and we all have to recognize our limits and our boundaries as far as
Mm-hmm.
that goes. So, for us, it might be pulling back one of our weekend days so that it wasn't as work focused, and we just sort of protected and preserved that time, working on our full weekends, maybe making sure that we're clipping off some of the evening work or things where it spills over beyond the sustainable level of work we all expect, even going hard. Those things we've started to make a difference. We certainly focus and are focusing. We're taking our own advice and we're focusing on how to take time off this year, how to take it together, and which is tricky. That's one of those when
Yes.
you're running a company with a partner with who's also your spouse. That can be a challenge because one of you can keep things operating, but we also want to take time together. Um, so it's sort of little places where we're continuing to focus on that too, and really to be the proper model for our team. It's hard to tell people, hey, this is the environment we're setting up, and we want you to have a sustainable job as a technician, as a behavior analyst. But then to make sure that we're modeling that as well is so important, I think, so that people can recognize that that kind of balance to sustain in this field is possible. And it's so vital because I've started sharing with people, and I got this line from somebody else, but we want to foster and generate suns rather than supernovas. They're both spectacular. One of them is going to be here to continue doing that work that isn't going anywhere, right? We want to
Uh-huh.
continue making that impact rather than burning out.
Absolutely. I love all that. So I'm going to put you guys on the spot a little bit more. So when you are taking that time off, whether you're tag teaming and it's just one of you, or if you're together, what are some of those hobbies and interests? What do y'all like to do outside of work? I'm curious.
We are actually big tabletop board gamers.
Oh, fun.
We have a pretty extensive board game collection, and we're actually building a board game room in our house right now, which is embarrassing to say on such a public forum. Um, but
Own it.
we, yeah, we do spend a lot of time playing board games and also working on our house. We bought our house just before COVID hit and didn't have any time to work on it through COVID. And really the past 24 months or so, we've been able to like start doing some projects. So
So
that's been
fun.
really motivating too.
Yes. Well, I actually have a friend that has their spouse is big into the board games. And so I've learned a little bit. I myself, I don't know if I have all the strategic timing and everything that it takes, but she was telling me how long some of these games take to play. So do you tell me what your favorite game is? I probably haven't heard about it, but tell me about it. And how long does a game last start to end?
So Court might have a different one than me on this one, but I know I'll throw a couple out there for us. This evolves over time too. So one of my favorites is Everdell. It's kind of I actually don't know the terminology for the sort of a city builder type, for those in the know. Turn-based, something we play a lot together these days, but when we can have friends, they can jump in on these too. And then the other one we played is Cascadia. So Everdell's a little bit longer. It's probably a couple hour play with some of the expansion
Okay.
pieces. We've even got the little custom set pieces that make it a little more immersive, so kind of an escape for us. The other one we played a ton of is Cascadia, which is this like strategic, logic heavy coordination. Honestly, it has a lot of elements of like people that are going to get into business are going to manipulate their pieces and moves a certain way. But we played that one a ton. That's more like a 45-minute to an hour game, but many plays there. Yeah.
Very cool. Courtney, is yours different?
We have played many games of Cascadia. So that's definitely one. I don't know that I necessarily have a favorite. We tend to like play one pretty intensely for a little while. Wingspan is another big favorite of both of ours. And we have another game called Apiary, which you're like space bees and you're like repopulating your colonies. Saying it out loud is really funny. But yeah, there are so many really excellent games.
Cool. Okay. Well, we're going to pivot a little bit and talk about your visit to the White House. So we know that you've been recognized as Vermont's best place to work, but share a little bit how was it a different award or was it part of that award that kind of led you to the White House? Tell me about that.
Sure. So we didn't actually know we were going to the White House initially, but I'll share about that in a second. So in 2023, we were nominated for and won Vermont Small Business Persons of the Year through the Small Business Administration. And there are multiple awards that the SBA does every year in small business. And we were fortunate to be nominated and selected as Small Business Persons of the Year. So as part of that, they invite all of the winners nationally from all the states down to DC for the awards ceremony. And that was in May of 2023, I think. And then Vermont had its own celebration in
So I'm
June.
going to interrupt real quick. Did you both go or was it just you, Courtney? You guys both got to
No,
go.
both of us. Yeah,
Awesome.
it's persons. So we both were winners and recognized.
Okay.
So we were driving down to DC and we thought we can do this. It's not that long a drive. And I want to say we were a couple hours into the drive, and Chris was like, I think I just got an invitation to the White House. And
Wow.
there were
That's
like
so
these
cool.
formal, fancy invitations via email. And we had to like do these background check things so they could start getting that in place. But as we were driving, we were like, oh, I guess we're going to the White House. It's like, do you have any, like, we had like clothes we planned on wearing, but Chris was like, I need a suit. So we had to like pull over and like find a place to buy a suit like on the way down to DC. And yeah, the celebration was actually in the Rose Garden at the White House.
Wow.
And yeah, it was really wonderful. It was nice to be around so many small business owners from around the country with similar learning histories, to us. So I don't know,
That is
it was a great experience.
that is so cool and exciting, and I love that story, Chris, about you needing the suit. I could understand. So, I'm just curious, had you all been to the White House just as like done a tour or anything prior to this, or was this your first time? Because I have not been myself.
I had never been myself. I had been to DC with my family as a kid, but that was mostly like, the sort of the tourist route and everything, but not to the
hmm
White House itself. We did a lot of the museums and the Smithsonian and all those great places there. I'd been back for conferences one or two times actually in neuroscience. DC was a regular stop. But no, I had never been to the White House. I'd only really seen it driving by. I don't even think I'd walked to the gates at that point. And yeah, so it was it was just crazy security lines to get in. I think we got
Yes.
scanned every way we could, and there were dogs and cycling through people a few at a time. There was just everything. And then to be there, and Rose Garden's a really small setting, so it was us, and actually the previous winner, Jill Scarborough, was a BCBA, so the previous national winner
Wow.
the year before us. For I believe Bright Futures, or Bright Future
Okay.
Learning Services,
Yes.
was her organization. So she was the winner. We got to meet her, which was awesome. Everybody else at the end was kind of pushing forward. We did hear Biden and President Biden at the time and Kamala Harris both speak, and it was
And
a big
Jill.
week for small businesses. And we heard Jill, yeah. So we were pushing forward to kind of get to meet Jill at that point, like-minded person in the field. We were a little bummed to hear her because we knew, oh, we're not going to win the national 2 years in a row, so not from the same field. But it was short-lived. Super fascinating experience. Court, I think, had been, she can confirm this, but I think she had been to the White House as a kid.
Yeah, I think on some family trips, like through DC, we did the museum thing and went on a White House tour. I don't believe we went in the Rose Garden though, because the way that they brought us through security, it seemed like a back way. We didn't go through the White House to get to the Rose Garden. They brought us through a different building to get there.
So I am just curious, like, how long did that security process take? Like, from when you arrive, you meet your first official or security person, to when you're in the Rose Garden.
Like a few hours, maybe, Court. I think it was such a
Yeah.
stage sequence thing because we had to line up with all of us, and it wasn't, I think we were like 1 to 2 people from each state, plus probably Puerto Rico was there as well. So there
Mhm.
was us and then our guests, and we had brought Courtney's parents were actually able to come with us,
Mhm.
and so they made the trip down. And so I don't 150 people or something like that in a line, and so it took some time to work us through, but most of it was scanners and things like that too. You're going through kind of strange walkways and scanners I've never seen before. But a lot of, like, you'd get through one stage and then you had to, you went past the sort of sniffing and bomb dogs and everything else,
Yes.
and then various scanners, and then there's waiting time, and then you're in there in the Rose Garden and you're still waiting for everybody to be there. There's news organizations wrapping us because it turned into a big media event for that as well.
Hmm.
Obviously, a huge political situation as well. Um,
I think it
yeah, so
was
it's
the
probably a few
kickoff.
hours of that.
Wasn't it the kickoff to Small Business Week?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That is so cool. So you think you're just going to DC, then you get this invite to the White House on the way there, and then you're there when you were going. Did you know that you were going to see President Biden at the time, or did you know that he was going to be speaking?
No, actually, there were a handful of people that worked for the SBA in the other venue that we were spending time in that weekend, and they would say, like, we don't know, we don't know if he'll be there. We don't know if Vice President Harris will be there or not. It seemed like it was a game time decision type thing,
Uh-huh.
really just based on their schedules. But I mean, they both spoke, President and Vice President, and Jill spoke as the national winner from the previous year. And um, yeah, they told us even the day of that they weren't sure if it would be him, but they were they were all there.
That is
Very
so
cloak and
cool.
dagger.
Just such a neat story. So, did your visit to the White House open up any new conversations about supporting small businesses in the autism and ABA space? I'm like, I know you mentioned that a BCBA had won the award prior, so very cool. But yeah, just curious.
Yeah, I think in Vermont specifically, it gave us the opportunity to start having conversations about workforce development
Hmm.
and ABA in general, like what it is. We'd like more people to know about it, but also ABA as a healthcare career. When we had the award ceremony in June for the Vermont like state recognition, Chris and I kind of took that opportunity to talk about ABA, and we're like, if you're going to
Yes.
give us a mic for like a speech, we're going to talk about the workforce and ABA. So we were able to start having conversations, just getting the word out there more about ABA and ABA as a healthcare career, so we can start really building our technician workforce.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's talk more about the future of ABA and business leadership. So, we know that ABA is evolving rapidly with new technology regulations and expectations. So, what do you think ABA businesses need to focus on to stay ahead today? What are some of the things that you guys are already starting to think about?
Well, our focus always has been our people.
Hmm.
And I do think moving forward, especially with the addition of AI and all of the tools that can help with a lot of different things that we're doing in our day to day, honestly, I think keeping the focus on people is important, building their skill sets, especially at the leadership and supervisory level. Um, I think, yeah, the, it's hard to not think the people when I hear that question. I don't know, Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think the other piece for us is it's been people and it's been quality of services. And so really AI and on sort of all the technological advancements in the field alone, but really the world at large, those things evolve and develop so rapidly now that I think keeping a focus on those pieces, which is how you can use your people, how you can support your people to provide high quality services what that looks like, clean understanding of that, support, training, execution, feedback, and components that can help with retention. I think we think about AI not just about the services and doing them faster, which is certainly part of it, but how to make sure that we're controlling it, that we're responsible about applying it,
Absolutely.
that it's translating to improved quality of services and not a substitute for doing the things we need to do. And so I think it's really important, not just that those tools are out there, but that they're developed, that they're monitored and utilized in manners that really deliver the bottom line of quality services, impact growth for our learners, and really support and sustainability for our technicians. It's no secret that the work can be very hard, especially from a sustainability perspective in ABA, and providing services to some of the most intensively demanding learners in terms of the need that they have. We need to be able to support our people at the technician level, at the behavior analyst level, operations teams. We have a small but mighty operations team that contributes to a lot of that as well. And so, really a lot of the tools. This is why we're here today with Hi Rasmus as well. But a lot of those tools are really important to help us be dynamic, and really so that we can focus as much as possible on that experience with the learner and their opportunities.
Absolutely. And just like Cortney, like you're both touching on, but I mean, that human touch, I feel like it's more important than ever. And yes, technology is great and they can work tandem together, but we can't just, completely rely on it. We definitely need to have that focus on the people in front of us. But I do want to kind of talk about platforms like Hi Rasmus. Keene Perspectives does use Hi Rasmus. And how has the platform and other innovations helped streamline ABA service delivery for you all, and with also still having the people first?
That's a great question. Really, I'll go back and I'll start with dynamic. We have always kind of operated, even before we were working along with Hi Rasmus and utilizing that platform so intensively in what we do. We've always wanted to apply ABA dynamically, individualized intervention. Sometimes that means custom program writing or goal writing, or targets and instructions that are customized to what an individual learner's needs are. In order to do that, you need a flexible and adaptable program and platform. And really that's something where we knew it would come eventually, and in a way that really fit and suited our approach. We've been pumped to see that with Hi Rasmus. And one of the things we love about, not to turn this into a plug, but one of the things we love is that so many tools are integrated, and Hi Rasmus is adapting and evolving quickly with the field and with our needs. Super responsive to us as clinicians, sharing what we need, integrating those into the platform, and then making sure that they're refined and they're functional together. Creating a dynamic tool is not the easiest thing, because it means it's changing and it's shifting, and some companies' needs and approach might be slightly different than another. So for us, integrating our data, our targets, our program goals, treatment plans, and having those dynamically update and evolve, because it's a fast moving thing. All of those components kind of working harmoniously translates to our technicians and our behavior analysts really being able to focus on each kid and what they need. And that's one of the beautiful things about ABA. My background is also neuroscience. And so I was not initially trained on the sort of one-to-one focus and the individualization. There's great stuff that comes from group statistics science and group approaches as well. But the best outcomes for individuals is always going to come from being able to use those tools to adapt to an individual's needs. And so that's a core piece of what we do, and really what we're so thrilled with in our work with the Hi Rasmus platform.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing all that, Chris. So what's next for Keene Perspectives? What are your guys' future goals for the company and impact on the ABA field?
I think we want to continue providing services to as many families in our region as we can. We were really fortunate last year to bring on multiple new behavior analysts to our team, and also have someone complete field work and pass the BCBA exam. So we went from one BCBA to four, in addition to Chris and I, who are both, Chris is a BCBAD and myself a BCBA. And being able to build that capacity has really given us the opportunity to, I don't know, really focus on our clinical outcomes and also do some planning for how can we support more families. And it's really important to us that we're doing that, but that we're also doing as much as we can in Vermont, in our region, to promote ABA and educate about ABA. So we're, like many places in the country, I feel like we're often put in a position to defend ABA, and we try very hard not to do that. We really want to be just promoting what we're doing and showing what we're doing.
I love that.
Within the guidelines of the ethical code and all of those things. But yeah.
Very good. So, if you guys could give one piece of advice to a new ABA business owner, what would it be? Just one thing.
I think we might have different perspectives.
Yeah, you can both answer that.
Yeah. I think for me, one piece of advice: plan for the unexpected. Not just expect the unexpected, but plan for it, because it's going to happen. Meaning, you can't fill your schedule with all of the to-do lists and the task items that you want to get done in that day, because you will not. It will not happen. You have to be prepared for the toilets to stop working, or for the power to go out, or someone, a staff member has to leave due to a family emergency. Like, all of those things happen on a regular basis, and it is very stressful if it seems like it's an intrusion on your day versus it's just part of your day and it's part of your job as a leader to help manage, those situations and make things happen and flow for everybody else so they can have success in a day. So I would say, not just expect the unexpected, but plan for it.
I love that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And the other piece I would add is just tap into the resources and the people, the amazing people that are out there in the field of ABA that really can help you understand the challenges that are going to come. There's room for innovation, but it can come a little bit later at times as well, after you sort of get your feet under you and get structured. There's a lot of quality organizations out there with great resources, great approaches, great advice. And I think within the field of ABA, we've really tapped into that ourselves. We have some phenomenal colleagues that have helped us kind of develop our leadership and our approach and our brand and philosophy within the field of ABA in a way that is attainable for us. And sometimes that's visits to other clinics. Sometimes it's just communicating with people, online, across social media, across whatever connections, learning opportunities. There's so many great resources and so much great information out there. I think there's no need to recreate the wheel initially. Like, look at the blueprints and start there, and then identify how you want to innovate or how you want to integrate different components to be the provider or the company that you want to be.
Both great advice. Yeah. I have not been an ABA business owner, but I have been a clinical director where the business owner was actually in a different state across the country. So Cortney, that would have been great advice for me to hear, because the most, I would say, I don't know if I want to say taxing, but just draining was the brain energy of the amount of decisions that you had to make on the spot every day, that it's like all these small decisions, even though it might be about a toilet or something that seems small, can have such a big impact on your team. So, instead of stressing out about everything, just knowing that stuff's going to happen. Stuff's going to hit the fan, and kind of planning for that. And also, listening to Chris, just collaborating with others, and letting them know how to handle all these situations. So such great advice from both of you. Well, At Hi Rasmus, our slogan is focus on the child in front of you. And so we always like to end our podcast by asking our guest, and you guys can each answer this question. So how do you focus? And I'll pivot this one. You can either say on the child in front of you or the employee in front of you in your daily job, which whoever wants to go first.
I can jump in. So when I was thinking about this question, how do I focus on the child in front of me? And we have some systems in our organization that are, well, we spoke about a little bit about them earlier. So we have our like internal kudos chats, and then we also have a client chat space so people can communicate about a learner across the day. But what those spaces are also used for celebrations about the learners. Sometimes some videos or some pictures will go in those chat spaces of firsts that that a learner has experienced, or things that have happened, or just moments of joy. And in my role right now, I'm doing a lot behind the keyboard, a lot behind the computer, and having access to those moments really just provide me a daily reminder of why I'm doing what I'm doing, so that my team can focus on the learner in front of them. It's not that I'm not focused on them, it's just through them. And that definitely keeps me going, as you know, I'm behind the computer building things for them.
Love that.
Yeah, I think really I would continue in a similar vein on that. There's our role certainly as our company has grown, have evolved over time. And so initially, we've both been case managers with Keene Perspectives along the way for years. And we're starting to evolve and build and develop our team so that now we're helping support other case managers and other technicians to grow and learn. And so while it may not always be us directly focusing on the child in front of us, we really are still thinking about it and applying the person in front of us that way, right? How do we, and that even extends beyond, I think, the employees. They're a key part of it. Every team member we have is crucial and vital. And that's really a large part of my role right now, is individually supporting those people and sharing celebrations, sharing growth targets, so that we have a shared growth mindset, so that we normalize that, so that we normalize feedback, to better utilize the tools we have to better serve the learners we work with. There's also the caregiver level, where we still, love our interactions with, whether they're a new family coming in, or a family that has a learner about to graduate from our services, or just a caregiver meeting where we're working on challenges, growth, trying to take that same cultural focus and shape it and shift it into those interactions. Every piece of that is connected. And so it takes a village, right, is the classic saying. And we really just, even in our continued roles, are shaping and providing and sharing that experience with our team, really trying to be leaders to help them develop into the best, people they can be, really. And if we take that approach, then the rest of the pieces tend to fall in place over time, and growth and learner development are going to come with that approach.
Awesome. Well, you both have definitely cultivated such a wonderful environment for learning and growth for your own team that has a direct impact on your learners and clients as well. So we already know that you guys are one of the best places to work in Vermont. So in case we have any BTs or BCBAs that are in Vermont, or maybe they even want to relocate, you shouldn't have said that it was chilly in April. I'm just kidding. Maybe it's someone that likes the cold. But your summers are pretty amazing, and your falls are also. So if there is someone listening, do you guys want to share a website or email if somebody's interested in joining your awesome team, where they could go? Where can they find more information about Keene Perspectives?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to our website, keeneperspectives.com/careers. We have information there about, right now we've got behavior technician positions posted. And so you can read all about that. Our Facebook page, you can find us at Keene Perspectives, on Instagram. I think we're Keene Perspectives VT. We've got a lot of stuff on there if you want to learn more about us and about our team. We post a lot about our team on there. yeah, reach out,
Awesome.
whether it's about positions or it's about culture, or you just want to reach
Yes.
out.
Yes, even if other business owners want to get some ideas, I love following y'all on LinkedIn. You guys have the best different team building activities and theme days. I was like, I liked the sensor, I forget what the title was for the sensory clothing. I was like, oh, that's a good one. I hadn't seen that. Instead of just having pajama day or whatever, it was like, I was like, oh, I like that. So anyhow, thank you all so much for joining us today and just sharing your incredible wisdom and insights with our community. So thank you both for being here, and thank you for our listeners for listening as well. So everyone, take care and stay focused. Until next time. Bye. Thanks for joining us on Hi Rasmus and Friends, Stories Behind the Science. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us continue to share inspiring stories and foster empowerment within the autism community. See you next time.